Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
You know, Disney is very good at wasting money these days.
They really, really are.
They've gotten very good at it. They're
also
very efficient.
Good, taking your money.
Taking your money.
Upcharging and everything else too.
Burning money, burning that money that they took. Yeah, so they're charging you more and then they're turning around and flushing it. We're going to talk about Willow, this massive failure for Lucasfilm, such a disaster that they actually had to take the write-off and they purged it
within 6 months.
Within 6 months, they purged it from the platform. We're going to find out why here pretty soon, because it is coming out that they spent way more money on Willow than they let people believe they spent, which is weird because the show actually looked pretty cheap. They could have taken the same amount of money and actually plowed it into a decent Willow movie that was about Willow.
Oh, they plowed all right. It just wasn't. It was more the fertilization, and then they just with shit, and then that's where they left it.
Yeah,
nothing grew in their shit fields.
Yeah, so this is look. We're going to talk about this. The original article came from Caroline Reed over at Forbes, and she's been doing some digging into Disney's expenses, and this might be a reason why they tried so hard to keep Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo off the board, because they'd crack open the books and it'd be like, damn, how much money are you guys actually burning? And do the shareholders know that you're burning money like this?
Well, this is just one of many. I mean, we saw that when they had the movies of last year, that only one of their films made it into the top 10, and that was number 9. And then they had 4 of the 5 bottom films of the year, and those all lost money. And then we have, this is a show with Willow. They're talking now the shows were probably costing more, losing money, which we already kind of figured.
Yes.
And it came from Caroline Reed at Forbes, and we know she's got a pretty great track record. So,
yeah, I have to wonder how they quantify how these streaming shows perform, because they weren't what they do is just like take the subscriber money and divide it by the views or something.
I don't know. I would say if you're not, but here's the thing: if you're not gaining subscribers from it,
yes,
it's the same amount of money either way.
Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So according to Caroline Reed, and we'll go out to her article after we're done here on piratesandprincesses.net, Disney's Willow series cost over $150 million for 8 episodes.
Yeah, it was close. It was like 156.8 million, I think is what the number was.
That's
insane. That's like 19.6 million per episode.
And I like Warwick Davis. I do. And I feel bad. His wife passed, I guess.
Yeah, which is, sad.
I feel really bad. But he deserved better. The show deserved better. And the thing about Willow,
fans deserve better.
Fans definitely deserve better than what it was. And what people were angry about when they got rid of the show was our lesbian representation. Our ship is gone.
This is a show about Willow was barely about Willow.
It's barely about Willow.
So yeah, within 6 months, it released on November 30th, in 2022.
Yeah.
And then by May 14th or 15th, they announced that they either pulled it down or announced they were pulling it down in 2023. It didn't even make 6 months, and they pulled it down for a write-off. How she found this information was apparently they used a code name like we did talk about with other movies. This one was Barking Lion Productions.
Barking Lion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they filed it, they had to make it public. And where most people figured it was 100 to 105 million was what it cost, it turned out to be closer to 160 million, 156.8 million.
Okay.
53 million of that went to ILM in London. So I don't know if that wasn't counted in the 100,000, 105,000 estimates, or 100 millions. You know what I mean? Millions.
Millions.
It was worth 1,000. It looked like it was 1,000. I meant millions.
Millions and millions.
I meant millions.
Billions.
You know
Let's go
what
billions.
I mean. You know what I mean.
How much money can we just burn? Billions of dollars.
I mean,
well, no, you start adding it up though. You start adding up all the money that they burnt.
Or they lost.
And it's like it is getting into the billions of dollars.
Yes, exactly.
All the opportunity. So there's a thing in business called opportunity cost, right? And opportunity cost, very bird's eye view of it is if you're spending time doing one thing that's only making this much money, but you could have been spending the same time and money doing something else that made significantly more money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but multiply that times how many losses.
Right. All these movies, all these TV shows that they made, all these streaming series they made, all this shit that they burnt money on. Not only did they lose money on those shows, but they lost in terms of opportunity costs because they could have been making better stuff or stuff that audiences would have actually liked.
In recent years, I think the list of what lost money is far longer than the list that made money.
Yeah, and it's very simple. Like Star Wars, all you had to do was give people Star Wars, not ruin the original characters.
That's all you had to do.
That's all you had to do.
Han, Luke, and Leia. Let them be Han, Luke, and Leia. Don't kill. You still killed Han off at the end, but Han, Luke, and Leia, and then you're passing the torch on to new people, and that they're they worked with them to kind of Leia, but you know what I mean, like. They're passing the torch in a way it wasn't vilifying or ruining characters. But they didn't flip and do that. They didn't even have the same dynamic until the last film. They weren't making them like a team or anything. It was stupid. They dropped the ball so many times.
It's so weird because I was thinking about the Leia thing. And what's really sad is they didn't actually do anything of note with Leia until after Carrie Fisher died.
Yeah, she Space Jesus herself and then, hugged Rey a bunch.
Yeah, she was barely in the first movie. She gets knocked into a coma in the second movie. And then the third one, they actually have her training Rey, but they're using leftover stock footage.
And I think her daughter, too.
And her daughter. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, seriously. It's like it was way too late. Now, in the case of Willow, let's be honest here. I love the original Willow. But it wasn't exactly Star Wars level event cinema. They did one Willow movie. It didn't do that fantastic at the box office. I liked it, but it's usually like people are like, oh, it's that other thing that George Lucas did.
Yeah, but I think it gained popularity over the years.
It did.
Now, Willow, okay, so here's my thing. So Lucasfilm came into it with three big things. Star Wars, which is in decline massively, and you're not seeing anything coming out about it. And what they do put out isn't even doing that well. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, which Indiana Jones' last film was number 3 of the bottom 5, and it lost lost them a bunch of money. And then Willow, which also lost them, about 50% more than people expected it to have lost.
I can't wait for THX 1139, the series. Or American Graffiti, but it's a series. It takes place in modern day New York.
Yeah, they'll do something. But, they had 3 main properties. Kathleen Kennedy managed to ruin all 3, yet she still has a damn job, and I cannot understand. I want a job where I can just fuck up that monumentally and still be paid and have my job. Anyway, they did get some money back from the UK, like other things we talked about. They got an audiovisual expenditure credit, and they got another $5 million grant from filming in the UK, which brought the total down to about $120.7 million.
They always film in the UK. Almost all the Lucasfilm productions, they film in the UK.
Right, but also they're doing stuff with Marvel in the UK and Australia and stuff because they're giving them credits and money.
God.
So they're like, here's the thing about Willow 2, which I talked about in this article. The viewership wasn't that great.
No.
They're like, oh, the viewership was... No, it wasn't. 581,000 households watched the first 2 episodes in the first 5 days. That's how people watched it. And a lot of people dropped off after the first or second episode. They're not counting that. But in comparison, Ms. Marvel, when they released the first episode, one single episode of Ms. Marvel, did 775,000 in U.S. households in the first 5 days. And Secret Invasion, which was a huge stinker, did 994,000 in the first 5 days of that show. Willow did like less than half of Secret Invasion, almost half of Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, so $150 million. Like I said, you could honestly, it would have been smart. They're trying to get subs to the platform, or at least that was the MO when they greenlit all this stuff. And I actually had some hope for Willow, but God. The better thing to have done would have been to just make another Willow movie that was respectful of the source material and didn't focus on the side characters, but focused on Willow.
Well, she even made, it was funny, she brought up, if you go down the article more, I didn't mention this other thing, about Jonathan Kasdan. She even got in there about Jonathan Kasdan, because remember guys, season 2 is coming. It's just on pause.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But it's coming. It's not dead. It's just barely breathing, but it's coming back, I swear. We made fun of it. According to the filings, they clarified there was going to be no season 2. She said Disney has pulled Willow from its Disney Plus streaming platform, and its filings revealed that work on a second season was abandoned. Even though Jonathan Kasdan was out there saying it was on pause. No, it was canceled. They abandoned it. He was trying to get it brought back, but it was done.
Why did they do this? Why did these people... I mean, I understand they put so much into this show and they want to see it come back. But I've seen, especially in animation, I've seen a lot of people try to resuscitate a clearly dead animated franchise We have a lot of showrunners now that are out there, trying to stir up stuff and stir up interest in their series that are clearly done over and dead, and they've already moved on. And honestly, even if they would bring those shows back in some incarnation, it's probably not going to involve the people that worked on it before. In this particular case, it was very clear that this show was dead on arrival. When they purged it from the platform, that is your sign that there is not going to be a season 2. I can't believe you're actually thinking there's going to be a season 2 when they wrote it off.
They didn't even just say, hey, we're not doing a season 2 and leave season 1 on there. They pulled season 1 off because it looked so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell you thought was going to happen. When you make a show about Willow, but it's not really about Willow. It's about all these other characters, including, now a couple of them were from before, so it makes sense. But it's about all these other characters. And it was, let's be honest here, mostly about shipping. It was about LGBTQ representation, which is fine. But it's Willow.
It's Willow.
Make another show where there's a knight that's a woman. I mean, I honestly didn't even care about that. I thought her being a knight was fine. That didn't bother me at all.
But the show focused on these characters instead of Willow.
That's the problem. I don't care
Willow
if they
was
were
about
side
Willow.
characters.
Willow was literally all about Willow on a quest to save this baby. That was his motivation. He's like, I got to get the baby back to her people. Oh, the baby's a magic princess. So it's a little bit of a wrinkle, but okay. But it was his quest. It was his story. And honestly, it would have made more sense to just have a Willow movie about Willow and his apprentice or something, or Willow's family, like the Hogan family. Well,
they kind of, touched upon his family.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was about it. And it was like, and I get, because the baby even, that was fine, because that tied into it. And Sorsha and stuff tied into it. But I mean, but it spent more time on these other characters than it did on the main point. And also it kind of seemed like walk back stuff that did need to be walked back. And it was just dumb. And then when it was pulled, all you heard was screeching about, their ship.
Their ship. Yeah, that was it. Like, nobody cared. Like, even people that loved the original movie were like, it's gone. I don't care, because I'm just going to watch the original movie. I mean,
the audience score was not good. The critical score was great because, representation.
Representation. Yeah, so she, her original article on Forbes, she talks about some of the other shows that have been cut, and they did cut some shows. I mean, they just way overspent. Everybody overspent on all stuff. And I did a video earlier today talking about AAA gaming and Square Enix, and Square Enix is like, you know what? One, we're done with exclusives on Sony because they're not selling for whatever reason. Like, people don't have a PlayStation or whatever. They're just not interested. And we're also firing all of the Western developers that made the shitty games that didn't make us money. Disney doesn't have the balls to do that. They should be looking at Kathleen Kennedy, like you said, and being like, hey, you're 3 for 3. You're out.
I don't
you're
understand
gone.
it. How
you're
you
damn near 80 years old. Get the hell out already.
How do you ruin everything and then be allowed to stay? I just don't get it. And we're talking a lot of money. Now, all these losses is probably why, we have Iger out here being like, we're going to do fewer films with lower budgets because it keeps overspending on these turds.
Yeah.
But they were listening to people tell them that you need to do it this way because, that's what the audiences want. And then they find out that the audiences don't want it. And then their answer is to call ourselves bigots, which they kind of backed off on that somewhat.
It doesn't work anymore. And they're going to find this out the hard way with Doctor Who. We did the video about it. They're going to find out the hard way that when you preemptively, like Russell T Davies is living in 2017. When you preemptively tell your audience that they're racist, bigot, misogynist, homophobe, whatever, every name in the book, and then they actively do not tune in your show because they're sick of your bullshit, and then you turn around and call them names again, it never ends well. It never ends well.
No.
But also, they need to learn the internet, social media is not necessarily indicative of what's going on in reality. Just because a lot of people are clamoring for certain things in movies and TV shows, and this works, both ways, both sides of the aisle, on social media, it doesn't mean that that's actually what's going to sell to the general public. And, if they're listening to, fresh out of college, freshly indoctrinated activists who are telling them you need to spend $200-300 million on this and make sure there's representation because it's trending now on Twitter, and then you spend the money and the general public rejects it, you got to look at the numbers. At the end of the day, it's a business. You got to look at the numbers. It's like there's nothing wrong with putting the representation in media, but if it is to the detriment of legacy IP, and it's chasing off your audiences because it's too ham-fisted.
If you're focusing on that, not the story.
Right. And that's, to me, that's what Willow was. It was basically a show about representation.
It was a vehicle for the princess and the knight.
Right, with Willow as a side character in his own show. And that's what they did with Star Wars, and they did it with, it's like, look, knock it off. This is the thing. You've got the biggest IP on the planet, and you managed to fuck everything up.
Yes, and again, one person has been the one doing that. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It just, to me, everybody's like, it's because of bigots. I'm like, then people just didn't watch it in general. They don't take a write down and delete it if it was getting viewed. It just, they were lost money. They needed to gain some money back, so they took it down. If it was being widely watched by everyone, just the vocal minority wasn't watching it, we wouldn't be having this video right now.
Yeah, that's true. They said Willow is a testimony that was born in the days of, and it wasn't that long ago. It was born in the days of a lavish spending in a bid to attract subscribers. That expense might be justifiable if the end result fuels a surge in fan interest, but not if it flounders like Willow. And there were several shows that floundered like Willow, including Marvel and Star Wars shows, not to this extent, but all over the place. And this is why I think HBO took a write down on a lot of animated series and stuff and got rid of them off the platform, because they're like, yeah, people watch them, people talk about them on Twitter and Tumblr and whatever, or TikTok, but they're not. There's no meaningful benefit to us, financial benefit to us. So it makes more sense to just write the shit off. Course correction. That's what's going to happen in the next couple of years. All the money's gone. Course correction. R.I.P. Willow. I don't think Disney's ever going to do anything with it again. Are we done?
Yes.
All right. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.